YouTube. This is Felicia with Bible Scraps, and boy do I have a flower making tutorial for all the novice flower makers out there. If you are like me, you have wanted to make flowers for years, purchased all the flower dyes, all the tools that you need, but you just find flower making too overwhelming. Well, that's been my experience. I've watched video after video, and it takes forever for the crafter to create one flower. Well, I have a method that takes out all the work. No pinching, no molding, and no cupping. And check this out. You can create beautiful flowers in less than 1 minute. Alrighty, before I get started, let me share some examples, some actual flowers that I made in less than a minute. Now these are absolutely, I just love them. Look at all that dimension, and they have texture. Remember, no cupping, no molding, no pinching. Now, depending on the type of paper you use, that will determine your look, because I use basically the same process for all of my flowers. It's just that depending on, once again, what you use, that will determine how your flower looks. Absolutely love them. Less than a minute, you guys. And here's this. Now in this video, we are going to make these flowers, and I'm going to show you the quick 1 minute way of doing it, and then I'm going to show you a 2 minute way of doing it. Now at the end of the video, I will share all the products and my secret solution that I will use to make these flowers. Okay, so I made a flower, but you know what? I deleted the segment, so let me do it again. Alrighty, I have die cut my flowers out, and I'm going to use a hole punch to cut a hole right in the center of my flowers. Now, because I'm demonstrating this, it's going to take more than a minute, but once you get the hang of it, you'll have your flowers done in less than a minute. I'm going to take a brad and add it right through all of my holes, and I'm having a hard time because I have on gloves. Now you could prep your petals individually, but this is a quick flower, and I love the method of adding the brad to all the petals at one time. Alrighty, choose your spray of choice, but let me tell you, I love Fun Stamper's Journey Color Splash. I'm going to do a separate video on these because our nozzles do not clog up, and I absolutely love that. Give your flower how many ever sprays you want. I think I'll spray the back too. And then you need to add several water mist. Now you want your flower to be kind of saturated, because the water, the moisture, is what will add dimension and texture to our flower. Okay, now I'm going to add my secret mixture, and I'll talk more about this later in the video. And as you can see, my flower is completely saturated. And then use your fingers. You can go ahead and make sure that you have, your entire flower, all the layers with water on it. Now, we're going to apply our heat and watch this flower take shape. I will use my stylus tool to hold my flower down. Now for this flower, I'm just going to let it dry as is, just to show you how it looks when you do absolutely nothing. Except I do want to use my fingers to open the flower up. This will also give it some dimension. When it dries, it will hold a shape. So you can do that. If it gets too hot, just use a tool to hold it in place. You could turn your flower over. So pretty much most of the time is spent on drying the flower. You don't want to apply too much heat because you can burn your edges, which, you might like that to a degree. But you see how it's fluffing out? Okay. Okay, so here's the flower. And now I'm going to do the same thing, use the same material, and I see I don't have my petals centered correctly. But this time I'm going to apply, I guess, light cupping. Spray it. Add my water. And this time I want to get as much ink on my flowers as possible. You know, when I sprayed my last flower, I could have opened up the petals or sprayed the petals individually. I like the dual color look. My secret solution. And fluff it a bit. And this time, I'm going to add a little bit of cupping. Okay, so this one is not totally dry, it's still damp. I added a lot of water to that one. But now I'm going to make another flower using a different material. But this time, I'm going to work with my petals individually. So I want to use the spray that I have down already as much as I can. But I will need more, obviously. Now, one thing, I have to remember what side is the side I want to work with. Okay, do you see with this material how the flowers are forming? They're going upward. They're forming a shape. So I did the biggest petal individually, but now I've added the 3 smaller petals. I'm going to do it all at once because it's a lot of work if you do it one petal at a time. So I'll dry it together, and you know what? I'm not going to use this tool. I'm just going to let it dry with the heat tool and use my fingers and let serendipity have its way. And then you can fluff it up. And there you have it. All right, you guys, here are my flowers. I love all of them. So I used a variety of different products or different papers to make these flowers. I created this one and deleted the segment, but I used the same material for all of these. So this one I made on camera, and I only applied heat, no cupping. This one, a little bit of cupping, and this one is still kind of damp. So for these flowers, because these were made with the same material, and you know, let serendipity have its way, because each time you will get a different, unique flower. Well, I used my greatest craft find product, rolls of silk. Absolutely love this stuff. It makes the prettiest flowers. Of course, these are darker and these have a little bit of glimmer on them, but I used all, that one product. Okay, so for this one I made on camera, and I used a different type of product. Remember, I started off individually cupping the petals and then said forget it. Now it looks totally different, right, from these flowers made with my greatest craft find. Well, I used silk paper. My rolls are also silk, but it's different types of silk, and I'll have this linked along with the other products in my description box. But I love the look of these. And you know what? They feel good. I love that crunch sound. Okay, so let me slow down for a minute, because I used the silk fabric sheets for all 3 of these flowers, and you can see I got different looks depending on how saturated you get your flowers, how much heat you add. That will determine your final look. Okay, you might be wondering, well, can you use paper? Well, yes, you can. But before I get to that, let me show you this flower, because this one was made with a different material as well. I used regular fabric printer sheets. and I'll have it linked as well. So this feel is different from the feel of these flowers and of these flowers. Okay, so let's get down to the paper, because many of you may use paper. Well, for this one, looks totally different than all of these, right? Well, I used the 110 pound Recollections paper. It's very thick, so it's harder to work with. But for this one, I used Fun Stamper's Journey whipped cream cardstock, which is the perfect weight for a lot of our crafty needs. Well, you see the dimension that paper gives over a heavier weight paper. Okay, so the flowers or the dies that I use to create my flowers are by Fun Stamper's Journey. I love this set. It's called the Sweet Succulent set. It's a host exclusive set. So if you're interested in an order or having a qualifying party, do check out my links in the description box. Now, the secret solution that I used, that I made myself, well, it's really no secret, but for these flowers, I guess it kind of is. I used this fabric stiffener and draping liquid. Added some of this to a bowl, a small portion of it, and added water and poured it in my spray container. And that's what I use to spray on these flowers, which is great because it provides a stiffness, a durability to the flowers, and it helps it maintain its shape. So my final thoughts, well, let serendipity have its way. But depending on how much or your ratio of the stiffener to water, that will determine your stiffness. Depending on how saturated your flowers are, that will determine your drying time. Also, depending on how much of this you use and when you use it, because you can use your wet mediums in any order. I used this last, but you could use this first. Well, that will dilute your color, so your final color will be contingent upon how much of this you use and when you use it. You can always add additional spray if you want a darker hue like you see here. So different things will determine your final flower. Of course, depending on the material that you use, that will determine what type of flower you get and the feel of the flower and the sound of that flower. But you know what? You really can't go wrong. So once again, just have fun, don't think, create, and let serendipity have its way. Who would have thought that flower making would be this easy, right? I love the idea of making flowers with fabric paper. Oh my goodness. And with my process, with my secret solution, oh my goodness, no work, you guys, no cupping, no pinching, no molding. These flowers were easy to make. If you decide to adopt my idea, please send me a link to your creations, and don't forget to give shout outs, and don't forget to link back to this video. Once again, I will have all the products I used in my description box. Well, if you have been inspired by my creativity, why not give me a thumbs up? Go ahead and like this video. Also, go ahead and subscribe if you are interested, because I will bring more flower making tutorials. I'm in love with making flowers now. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. As always, blessings.